here have a fear of public speaking? Okay, my fear is public speaking to an empty room. And you're all here, so you've saved me from that fate. So we're off to a really good start. Thank you very much for coming. I'm so happy that you're all here for this, but there is one person who I wish was here, which is Stanley Diamond. Stanley is the hero, the absolute hero of this book, which I'm gonna spill my water. If I wanna drink the water. How should we do this? The hero of my book, 1 in 6 million. And I'm gonna read to you Stanley's words. So what I wanted to say was that I had some really dark, it took me 6 years to write this, right? So what kept me going through all of that time was imagining Stanley here tonight. And if you know Stanley, he loved nothing more than pomp and circumstance. So it really kept me going to imagine him holding it up. And the lucky thing is that he wrote the foreword. So we have a little piece of him, and I'm gonna just read you Stanley's words to bring him, as Brandy would say, to bring him into the room with us. Dear reader, so I'm reading, you're gonna have this. You understand? Okay. Dear reader, I hope you enjoy reading 1 in 6 million as much as I have relished reliving, ever since Amy Fish was drawn to write about it, the saga of how my world unexpectedly met Maria Vesnitskaya's. Over the years I have been asked, what drives you? My answer is always the same. I was blessed to grow up in a loving family where I learned the importance of giving back. My parents and siblings were all non-stop volunteers. As the youngest child, I had models to follow, and I too have found it difficult to say no when called upon to help. In addition, being able to share a passion for research with my wife Ruth has meant everything to me. Without Ruth and my daughters Paula, Rachel, and Jessica, who provided understanding, cheerleading, and moral and research support, I might have only collected golf or bridge scores in my retirement years instead of making a difference every single day. Stanley Diamond. We have a few members of Stanley Diamond's family, so if you want to stand up, we'd like to recognize you. I think he wants to take your picture, honestly. Today is I'm going to tell you how I became a writer. Then I'm going to tell you how this book came to be. Then I'm going to tell you how I met Maria. And depending on time, then we'll see how we feel. Like maybe I'll keep going, maybe we'll do questions. Sound good? Yeah. Okay. So how I became a writer is this. In about 2010, I needed money. And I thought, you know that 10,000 hours thing, like if you do something for 10,000 hours, you'd be good at it? And I thought, what have I done for 10,000 hours? Talk. So I thought, this is great. I'm going to be a motivational speaker. How hard could it be to get that off the ground? And I'll make some extra money. And somebody from our community, Andrea Yampolsky, invited me, and many of you were there, to a lunch and learn at her house. Do you remember this? And I came up with this topic, the 6 C's of complaining effectively. And one of my friends said, if you want to be a speaker, you have to write a blog. And I said, well, I could write a blog, but I remember looking at Stephanie and saying, but I have nothing to say. I mean, can you imagine? So I blogged and I blogged and I blogged and I blogged until my great uncle Avi said to me, if you have so much to say, why don't you write a book? And I said, oh, how hard could that be? So I wrote this book called The Art of Complaining Effectively when I knew nothing about books. If I tell you nothing, I don't even think I read it over. Like, I wrote the book and I printed it out and I said, okay, we have a book. Now, I read a lot. I've always read a lot. So it's not like it came out of nowhere. But it's not like I was a writer who was constantly scribbling in notebooks and kept keeping journals. That was not my story. I really tripped into it. But once I started doing it, so my uncle calls me and says, oh, we forgot to show the silence your cell phones video. Silence your cell phones, everybody. So my uncle called me and he said, I have 2,500 books for you to pick up. And Dave said, you cannot keep those in the garage. So I got on the phone and I just started booking myself on TV and radio interviews because I didn't know that you weren't supposed to do that. So I just started calling people and saying, hey, I wrote this book. Should I come on your show? And what ended up happening, the best thing that could have happened is that everybody wanted it. So I was selling my book out of my purse at the IGA. And then I thought, maybe I'm onto something. And so I started taking writing courses. And one person I took a course with is here, but I don't see him. No, okay, I saw him outside. I can't put my eye on the audience right now, but I started taking writing classes, and one was, I Googled writing conferences near me. And it depends what your definition of near me is. But we ended up in Lancaster, Pennsylvania.
Wow.
At the Hippocamp Conference for Creative Nonfiction. And what I didn't know was that it was the first year that this conference was happening. So everybody was super keen and super eager and super excited. And I raised my hand for every opportunity. So, do you want to interview someone? And I ended up interviewing actual famous people in nonfiction. I had no idea. I was like, oh, can I have a selfie with, with one of the key editors? And so the other thing that happened during that week or weekend at Hippocamp was that they had an open mic night. And writers are usually very shy and very quiet. So the open mic night was great. My name got picked. I marched up there with this purple book, let's go. And the next day, I went to a store called Rainbow. I don't know if you've ever been there, but the women have face tattoos. It's really something special, that store. And I bought a pair of shoes for $5. And I'm sitting in the audience, and I say to the person next to me, hey, look at this, I got these shoes, they were $5. And she says, oh, that's amazing. We talk about the shoes, and then she says, can you watch my stuff? I'm on the next panel.
Oh my God.
Yes, it is, oh my God. Thank you for being one step ahead. And I start rifling through, and I'm like, why would she be on the agent and publishers panel? I just showed my $5 shoes to a big New York agent. But she signed me.
Wow.
So she said, I'll take you, but you have to write fiction. And I said, oh, I can write fiction.
Yeah.
So I wrote a romance novel. Notice that it did not appear anywhere. I wrote a romance novel about a very quiet, shy person who inadvertently got a job in the complaint department of a sex toy company. And it was a hilarious book with no plot whatsoever. And we just couldn't sell it, and honestly, in retrospect, rightly so. It's my drawer book, it lives very well in a drawer. It really wasn't good. But we kept trying different projects until ultimately we did this one together, which is I wanted fries with that, or as my father-in-law likes to call it, I ordered some French fries. And so I wrote this fries, and this came out in 2019. And just before it came out, I met Stanley. So now we're going to pause for a little commercial break because I have another book to tell you about. And so last spring, I wrote this book, which is called Honeymoon Sneakers. And it's a story about, I'm in line, and I see the couple in front of me has their names on the backs of their sneakers. And I say to myself, I wonder if they're on their honeymoon. Instead of asking them, and I have no explanation, I start stalking them. And I'm in line, and I'm like, oh, the lines are so long at the airport. So I challenge myself, how far am I gonna get? I found their home address, I found how they met, I found their selection, I found where they both worked. And then I started finding dark things about them, and I was like, okay, Amy, this has gotta stop. So I wrote an essay about it, and I tried to get it published, and I couldn't. So I called my sister and I'm like, I think I inadvertently wrote a poetry collection. My sister's like, who inadvertently? Accidentally. And I said, well, maybe if I chop this up and make it into poems, it'll sell.
Oh.
So now we're back in January 2019, and I'm going to tell you how this book came to be. This is a reading now. See, I was in Toronto the other day, and one feedback that I got from my launch there is that they couldn't always tell when I was reading. So that's why I'm kind of going over it in so much detail for you. Okay, so let's read from about the day I met Stanley. We're at a Shiva. JRI Poland, Stanley explained, was the largest database of Polish Jewish vital records in the world. Alan Dershowitz had used the database to find his family tree, as had Gwyneth Paltrow. Sometimes, he said, people find family members who they believed had perished in the Holocaust, but who had actually survived. Wow. What? Wait, I said to him, are you telling me people are still finding each other now? 75 years after the war ended? Did you guys know that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Everybody knew that.
I did not.
No one told me.
No, I did not. I did not know
You all did?
that.
Okay, I was shocked.
I was
So
shocked.
anyway, I had gone to Solomon Schechter, I went to Herzliya, I graduated from Brandeis. The possibility that I might have living relatives I knew nothing about who had survived the Holocaust had never ever come up in conversation. Not once. I was always led to believe that if you had not heard from your relatives in the immediate aftermath of the Second World War, they would absolutely not be coming to your Passover Seder. What Stanley said shocked me. How can it be possible for family reunifications to happen so many decades later? I have since learned, what you all already know, but I have since learned that this is a very real possibility and that an important project, the DNA Reunion Project, provides DNA testing kits free of charge to survivors and their families in an effort to reunite lost relatives before it's too late. Looking at my watch, I saw that the afternoon stretched ahead of me, and I asked Stanley if he had any good stories to share. He told me he had just finished a case with an unbelievable ending. He'd helped a woman named Maria, who had grown up not knowing who she was, find her family tree. They discovered many living relatives, and in the end, it turned out that Stanley, too, was related to her.
Wow.
Come on, I said. That cannot be possible. I shifted closer to the youngster. It is possible, Stanley said. The whole thing was bullshit.
Wow.
Wow.
That's a good story.
So what I thought was going to happen.
Wow, that's so
So I
cool.
called Stanley the next day, and I said, has anyone tried to write your story? And that's when he told me that he was actually kind of famous and that documentaries had been made about him, but that he hadn't really trusted anyone to write his story. But because we were related, right, and family was everything to this man, he said, I will trust you with this story. So what I thought was going to happen, what I imagined, is that he would like reach into his filing cabinet, give me a box, and I would go home and write this book. Okay, this was 6 years ago. So in fact, what happened is that I met with Stanley, and I met with Stanley, and I met with Stanley, and I interviewed Stanley over 100 times.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And he gave me all his documents, but a lot more research ended up having to go into this book. So, where was I going with this? Wait. So, how this book came, Stanley, I was going to school with this. So I started writing it, and then I realized I was in over my head. I did not know how to write a book like this. I just didn't know how. I know how to tell a story. Up until this experience, I knew how to tell stories that were like, thoughts in my head. Things about how to complain, or how to be motivated, or funny things that happened to me, but I didn't know how to tell a story like this one that happened to someone else that happened over there. And so I thought, I'm gonna have to go back to school. And I applied to a master's program in fine arts, an MFA, and I applied to one, because at this King's College in Halifax, you go with your project and you work on this one project. And I thought, they're gonna explain to me how to do it. And I got a supervisor who was an expert in, of all things, the Northwest Passage. And I said, this is perfect. I'm also writing about a quest. So I was very not worried about selling the book because I had an agent, and right when I was ready to what we call go on submission, where you go and try and sell the book to a publisher, I got, my agent called and said, I'm leaving the industry.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, that's no problem. Someone else will pick me up. Like, I wasn't worried at all. And I was all ready with my proposal and my website and everything. And then I got an email saying, effective immediately, you are no longer. And I was like, what? And one of my friends saw on Twitter that they cleaned all her clients, got washed out. That was it.
Wow.
Yeah. So I had to restart all over again. So now, okay, what am I going to do? So I just start pitching and pitching and pitching and pitching and pitching and pitching. Yeah. And finally, I long shot tried this agency in Toronto called Westwood Creative, which is really, I have to say, I'll just toot my own horn for a second. You're here for me. If it's not the best agency, it's the second best. Like, it's really one of the really good ones. But I figured might as well, I've tried everyone at the mid, so let's go up. And I got an email back saying it's not for me, but I'm going to pass it to my friend Chris. And then I got an email from Chris saying, your writing really doesn't resonate with me. And I was like, why did they do that? Like, there's so many other ways you could have communicated the same thing, right? But he said, the chairman of the agency might like this story. Do you mind if I send it to my friend Michael Levine? I said, I don't know, sure. And I Googled Michael Levine, and there he is with Liza Minnelli. So Michael calls me, and he says, I like it, but no one's buying books about white men, so I think I'm going to pass. And I finished the year of school, and I'm still trying everything I could think of. And then somebody comes to speak to our class before graduation, and he says, and he tells us that if you've been getting rejections, he will take all your rejections and take your proposal and go through everything, and he'll give you recommendations about how to improve. And it was like, I want to say $300, like something that so I collect everything and I give him all my stuff, this guy Bruce Walsh, and we have our call, and I'm like really excited to hear what it is, and he says, your work is fine. I'm like, no, like I paid you, you've got to give me something. And he says, go back to everybody that you almost closed with. He says, go back to everybody who showed an interest. And then I went on vacation and with a few people, including a friend of mine who's a documentary filmmaker, and she said to me, have you thought about Michael Levine? And I said, I wrote to Michael Levine. I had a call with Michael Levine, but we couldn't close. And she said, call Michael Levine back. So now I have an excuse. I write to Michael Levine, blah, 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 vacation, blah, 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 Noemi, blah, 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 last year. And he said, I'll take you, but only for this one project.
Okay.
And then he signed me 5 minutes later. So Michael and I got this project together, and it's sold to a publisher in Fredericton, Ontario, after October 7th. Yeah. And I'm telling you that because a lot of people are very discouraged. This was the opposite of discouraging. They were thrilled to have the story. They really think of it as a story of identity, a story of persistence, a story of resilience, and a broader story than just a World War II story. I wrote this book because I really believe, in my heart of hearts, that one little good deed brings another little good deed, brings another little good deed, brings another little good deed. And just by Stanley translating that postcard, this woman ended up having enough money to go to Białystok. She ended up going to the cemetery. She ended up seeing tons of broken matsevas or gravestones. She ended up going back to her town, fundraising, buying cranes for Białystok, and starting a whole cemetery refurbishment project. Wow. Come on. Okay? And so my message to everybody is like, let's think about that. Let's think about bringing light into the world. And it's the little things, one little thing, but they can really be impactful. And I found it very motivating and inspiring. And I hope in some way it's motivating and inspiring for all of you. Now we're at the Q&A.
Isn't that Bravo? It's right there, baby. Okay, Leslie Lang. Sorry, Amy.
Yes, let's focus. Q and A. You do the Q, and I will do the A. Go ahead.
So as you know, because I sent you a text,
Yes.
that I was reading your book while I was vacationing in Portugal with my son, who right now is in Auschwitz in Poland, just to do a tour aside. And I started to cry on the bus from Porto back into Lisbon. Like, I wear a mask usually when I'm, in crowds, but I was crying so much I had to take off the mask and blow my nose, and everyone thought I was sick. Anyway, my question to you, because of the work that I do, which is fundraising for the children's, and specifically now a lot of research and complex files and stuff like that, how did you get the information for DNA? Because I found it fascinating how you were able to explain and decode how that works.
How it works? Oh, you know, it's so funny. My dad asked me the same thing. My dad asked me if Stanley gave it to me. Stanley did not give it to me. I read and researched a ton about DNA, and then I came up with those analogies myself.
And how long did that take you?
6 years.
6 years.
I have a question. It's a two-part question. The first part is, how did you name your book? And the second part is, if you had other names.
Did I tell you to ask me that?
Absolutely not. You did not tell me to ask you.
Did I? Oh, I did. Okay. Because I was like, I like that question so much, and that's like one of my best friends asking me. So I'm like, no, I can find that. Oh, it feels very kind, but that's fine. I'll tell you. So the most important thing. So the book is called 1 in 6 million. When it started, I called it Look Up, because Stanley was a ceiling salesman. And we looked things up, and I thought it was really funny. Thank you for laughing. No one else seemed to get it. So when I got to the master's program, my supervisor, who I already told you was an expert on, does anyone remember?
Northwest
Yeah.
Passage.
So he took a look at it and said, no, this is called Searching for Maria. So it was Searching for Maria for a long time. And then I remembered that I knew somebody who had a business coming up with titles. So I paid for a consultation with her, and we generated lists and lists of titles, and this was the one that I liked the best. Stanley hated it. If I tell you hated it, like would email me at 3 a.m. saying your title is ruining my life. And I promised him that I would tell all of you, I said on the book tour, I will tell everybody this was not your idea. And he actually wrote me back like toward the end and said, you made me feel a lot better about it. Okay? So the reason I like the title so much is, I'll tell you why he didn't like it. Why Stanley didn't like the title, I told you this when I came, but I'll tell you again to my survivors in the front row. Stanley didn't like it because Maria was not one of the 6 million. And he felt it was disrespectful to the people who perished.
Oh,
And I think that is a fair comment, and I accept it.
I didn't even think of that.
Okay? The thing is, though, it's very difficult to determine exactly who perished and didn't perish. And that was one of the reasons that I like the title so much, because each one of the 6 million has a whole story behind them, just like Maria has a whole story behind her. And at a certain points in the book, you'll see she was thought to have been one of the people who died. And so I liked it for that reason. I also liked it because it was like a 1 in 6 million chance, like a 1 in a million chance that he was going to be able to find who she was. And then also, I feel in this book, you know, everybody relates to someone different. Some people see themselves as the mother that left the baby, and some identify with the parents that scooped up the baby, and some identify with the baby. Like everybody kind of puts themselves in different shoes. And I just feel like any one of us could have been one of the 6 million, because by the way, it wasn't only Jews. So for whatever reason, we could have been put in the wrong list, in the wrong row, for tons of reasons. And so thank you, Rihanna, for that excellent question. Okay, Ronit, I'm scared. Did I give you a question?
You did not. I also have a two-part question.
Yes.
So now that unfortunately Stanley has passed, and many, many, many people, I think, wanted to eventually or are in the process of working with him, do you know what that's going to look like and his legacy, where that's moving on? I know it's not directly related to your book, but it is in my second part of my question, which is, will you have a second book in this sort of vein where you look potentially for a person's story, some kind of story, maybe not necessarily related to the Holocaust, something in that respect? Would you consider writing another story similar?
Okay, I'm going to answer that one first because it's easier. I really feel like the steward of this story, and I want to give it its chance in the world. So I don't really want to think about what I'm going to do next yet, because I just want to give this story and this book and this project, 6 years, come on, a chance to be told and to be heard and to be read and to be discussed. I just think we owe it. We owe it to the
Yeah,
book.
it's a great answer.
So, yeah.
Great answer.
And then the other question was, do I know what's going to happen to Stanley's legacy? Okay, if you knew Stan, you know that no matter who he trained, they would not be up to his par to do what he wanted. So yes, I know that he's worked with a lot of people and he did train them, but sometimes the light goes out and the light goes out. And I think that's where we are. Any other questions?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, over here too. Okay, go ahead. And then-
So I have some questions that are related to a comment. First of all, as I heard you speak, you're an amazing speaker.
Oh,
The title is part what drew me to be following you. But also you dropped something, and my father's whole family was killed. They set fire while they were in a Stiebola in Bialystok.
I'm so
So
sorry.
my parents and the rest of the family got out just in time. They heard from the resistance and they tried to convince my father's parents. So now I'm thinking, oh my God, maybe there's, you're making, what I'm also seeing is you're coaching us on how, first of all, you never give up.
You
And
never
you never give
I'm a
up,
pleasure
and
to
you're
live with.
showing us. Well, this is where your brilliance. You have a lot of brilliance.
Yeah, no, I
But you are.
So we have to get to the cue, because I can do this all day.
What I'm saying is I can
Yeah.
see you coaching people on how to write the story, except for a second I got scared if I 6-year project.
Well, this
No.
summer, I'm
Show me
actually
the project.
invited to the International Genealogical Society in, where is it? I want to say Des Moines, but it's not Des Moines. I keep forgetting where it is. But I am actually giving a talk for genealogists about how to write your story for future generations. Here. We have a question. Where was the question? Here? Yeah.
I would like to say a few words because
No, we can't say a few words. It's a Q&A. You can Q&IA. That's how it works. I'm sorry. I
trust me.
No.
Why are you shutting me up? We're not married.
Question or no? Do you want me to?
Question?
Yeah. What's your question?
No, but I did have something interesting to say. It's okay.
What do you think, guys? Okay. Mark, everybody wants to hear from you. Go ahead.
I apologize, but I really wanted to say something about Stan because he was so incredibly committed to this. He must have spent 16, 18 hours a day. I don't know who did use it, because if you told him that you had an ancestor in Japip, Poland, in 18 seconds he would have the marriage certificate of the great-grandmother and the great-grandfather, and he was just unbelievable. And on the morning he died, I went into the hospital and gave him a kiss, and they said they thought he heard me, and I told him I loved him. We Skyped every second night. I knew every time you went to interview, he told me, and I thank you for what you did, because he was a great man and a wonderful friend, and I really did love him. And I'm sorry I don't have a question.
I'm sorry for your loss, Mark, and if things don't work out with my husband, honestly, I'll...
Oh my goodness. You have a question? There was so. Yeah.
Hi.
Just a quick question.
Sure.
Has Maria wanted to, or has she read the book, or does it, I don't know if it has to be translated, but
Yeah, so Maria speaks only Russian, and so far the book is not available in Russian. So I told her about it, like I emailed with her, so I told her about it, And I told her I'm gonna send her a copy anyway, just so she could like know that it exists. But I don't think she'll be able to read it. Yeah, I mean, listen, anything can happen, but.
Any other questions?
Natasha Hall was supposed to interview me. Did you notice that she was not here? Yeah, I completely forgot. That would have been a good question. Amy, wasn't Natasha Hall supposed to interview me? Yes, as a matter of fact, she was, and she ended up with a work commitment, and I said, don't worry, I can interview myself.
Since this book is very important, I feel,
Thank you.
is it possible that if you have connections to have a movie, it's going to be international, so everybody, the whole world will
It
see
should be a movie. It's so good.
That's so nice.
So nice.
That's so nice. You know, the book is 3 days old. And I don't know if anyone in this room has children, but you know that thing where like you come home from the hospital and that people say, when are you having your next baby? And you're like, oh, I barely know this person.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I feel. I hear what you're saying, and you know, my sister Laura said the same thing. It's a very visual story. You'll see when you all get a chance to read it tonight. You know, it's a very visual story, but we got to give it a chance. Like I can't, you know what I mean? Like I can't think further than like after this. Next up is what? Pesach. Like I can't worry about a film. So like theoretically yes, but in practical terms, like give me a break.
I have no connections, but I have time. I can help you to try to get somebody to do it.
Thank you. Thank you. So the other thing I wanted to tell you is in your bags you got candles and challah, and I did not even get a chance to tell you
you
why.
should read that part.
Yeah, I'm going to. I just forgot to do it.
Did they sell more bags?
When Rabbi Krashevsky agreed to take Maria's DNA sample from Siberia to New York, Sarah had promised him that he would be the one to tell her she was Jewish. Rabbi Krashevsky accepted, and on Friday, September 16, 2018, he arrived at Maria's home to notify her that the first step in the search was concluded. Her DNA results indicated beyond a doubt that she was of Jewish descent. He affixed a mezuzah to her doorpost. He brought with him a Shabbat prep kit as a congratulations, you're Jewish gift. Shabbat is often the first thing Jewish people learn about their heritage, beginning with toddlers. In Jewish community center preschool programs across North America, Jewish 2- and 3-year-olds are introduced to their heritage on Fridays at Kabbalat Shabbat or Shabbat parties. Purple grape juice is served in paper cups in place of wine, and pre-sliced challah is distributed on sheets of brown paper towel from the bathroom dispenser. No one could rewind the clock and give Maria a child's first experience of the Jewish rituals, but Rabbi Krashevsky gave her Shabbat candlesticks, wine, and challah. And I was trying to think of a turn water into wine joke, but I couldn't come up with one fast enough, and then I thought, wrong crowd.
Yes.
If you get that. But I had the candlesticks, she got hers from Chabad, and so I contacted the Chabad here, Chabad of Westmont, and they generously gave me candles for each of you. Yeah. And the challah, the little challahs are from Besso, for all your kosher catering needs, who are good friends and also donated the challahs, just to be nice. So I wanted you to have that same experience, and that's why we have that. And then the next thing is all your books are signed, but if you want personalized, customized signing, I will sit at the table there. If you want additional books, which people have been asking me, we do have additional books, and you can bring them home today, and I can sign those too. And if you would like them also as a Pesach gift, Yom HaShoah gift, I guess, Brandy, yeah, maybe not a gift-giving occasion, but, did you have a question? Okay.
Isaac, what's his first name? He runs the foreign film that we watch once a month on Tuesday. He is in touch with all the authors, people that would be interested in your kind of books.
Look at the networking here that we're doing.
I just can't for the moment. I just had his name.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what. In your book is a little, postcard?
Yeah.
In your book,
Yes.
everybody's getting also a little postcard. And so you can contact me on the postcard and give me the guy's name, because I'm not writing it down right now, I'm sort of busy. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Hi. I don't know if you talk about this in your book because we all haven't read it yet, but why did Maria think she was Jewish? Like, how did?
Oh, good question. So Maria was left by the side of the road on the day that the Jews in her town were rounded up, and not rounded up in a good way, right? And so so imagine, there's a baby on the side of the road in a ditch. This Polish couple is walking by, I have to do a reenactment, and they're like, oh, is that a baby? Look to their left, look to their right, Gestapo everywhere, scoop the baby up, and race her. Okay, this is the book you have in your possession. Like, race home and read it because it's really good. And so her parents always told her that, and she always felt like attracted somehow to Jews. Like, she was small and dark, and she didn't look like everyone else, and she just thought, I think I'm Jewish. She always had Jewish best friends. Jewish families would take her under their wing, and it just always nagged at her, and she was never able to prove it. Okay. Yes. Oh, we're getting warmed up. This is fun. Yeah.
How did she go from Poland to Siberia?
Oh, okay. Well, that's chapters 11 through 14. No, what happened was she was in Poland initially, and then she lived in Ukraine for a while, and then eventually she went to Siberia. It'll all come together. Yeah. Yeah. Yes,
Are
Ivy.
you related to Stan?
Oh, because
And on which side?
not your side.
Okay.
Because Stanley's grandmother and my great-grandmother were sisters.
Wow.
So we're second cousins once removed.
On your mom's side.
On my mother's side, sorry. For everybody that doesn't know Ivy's life story. Yeah, on my mother's side.
I'm related on the father's side.
Yeah, we're related on my dad's side.
On his mother?
Stanley's mother, Annie, yeah, her mother, whose name is escaping me right now, and my bubby Bertha were sisters. It's a pretty close relationship. So that's why I met him at my Uncle Abby's Shiva, but I didn't know him. Yeah, I met him at Uncle Abby's Shiva. But I didn't know him, but he knew me because that's how he was. He was like, oh, nice to meet you, and your late mother Judy, and then I know your father Morris, and I was like, who is this man?
It's always like
But
that.
it was really quite a lucky meeting. Yeah. So as I was saying, so if you want like a customized sign, I'm gonna sign there, and if you want to buy a book, we could do that too. Thank you so much, Coming Center.